Hi, I'm David Lee Simmons, entertainment reporter for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. We're here today with Marc Fouchi, star of the upcoming production of the Will Rogers Follies, out at Rivertown Theaters for the Performing Arts in Kenner. If the name Fouchi rings a bell, it's not just because you've seen Marc appearing in local theater productions such as Monty Python's Spamalot or Annie, and most recently Under the Boardwalk. He's also the husband of Rivertown Theaters co-artistic director Kelly Fouchi, who will direct the Will Rogers Follies, which opens this weekend to continue their 2014-2015 production. So Marc, thanks for joining us. We talked earlier in the day about the challenges that you face learning how to do not only Will Rogers the character, but also the rope tricks. You and Kelly, after you got married, performed in the Will Rogers Follies several years ago.
Right.
What was that like, and what did you like about the production?
Well, getting to be in Will Rogers Follies at Summer Lyric, that was one of my first Summer Lyric shows, and you know how they do it. They do it all up, and it's top notch. And to be able to be a cowboy for the first time was a lot of fun. But then to be in it with my wife and learn about Will Rogers and the life of Will Rogers was really interesting. I had never heard of him before that point, and apparently he was like one of the most famous people in the world in his time in the 20s and 30s. So,
he's a successful entertainer no matter what he did, no matter what medium he got involved in, he became a star.
Yeah, he was the top paid entertainer of his time, making over $100,000 a movie back in the 1920s. That's a lot of money.
So this is kind of a Ziegfeld Follies version of telling his story, putting on a show. But part of that show is, as you've brought with you today, learning how to do rope tricks. We'd like you to explain a little bit about how you learned how to do the rope tricks and then show us some of the tricks that you learned.
All right. Well, I guess about 3 months ago, I saw that the date was quickly approaching, so I went over to Ace Hardware and got a rope and tried spinning it, and I quickly threw my shoulder out. And so I started reading about it, and it turns out that's the worst thing you can do is get a rope from Ace Hardware. You got to order it from a Western prop shop. It's got a certain thickness and all that kind of stuff. So for the next 3 months, I spent about an hour a day working on all these different rope tricks. And there's not many people around, pretty much zero in New Orleans, know how to spin a rope. So there was one person, the Will Rogers from the production we did in 2001, Jimmy Murphy. So I invited him over to the theater, and he's the nicest guy in the world, and he taught me how to do one of the tricks that he could remember, and he picked it up just like that, so I guess it's like riding a bike. But for the other 3 or 4 or 5 tricks, I was on my own, so I'm out in the backyard every day. I got, one day some workmen had to come over to our house for something, and they walk in the backyard and they see me spinning a rope, and they're like, "Hi, how you doing?"
You must be in musical theater.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, it's a little bit like golf. When you get it right, it's fun, but most of the time it's just frustrating.
Right. You don't want to hook it or slice it.
Right.
Well, I'm going to step back and let you describe and kind of walk us through some of the rope tricks that you'll be doing in the show.
All right.
And I want to give you a little bit of leeway here, but go ahead and sort of explain the background on some of these tricks and how you learned them and what's the hardest part about it.
Okay. Well, first step is always to make sure your rope isn't tangled, because it ends up looking like a real big mess if it's not. It's a nice coil like that, not all tangled up. So to start off, one of the first tricks you learn is the flat loop, which is just spinning horizontal to the ground like this. And sometimes when you see that, if you've never really seen a rope trick up close, that's enough right there. But in the show, my line is, "Now I know a small rope trick like this don't seem like much." So you figure there ain't no such thing as a big rope trick. And then I go into the merry-go-round, which is the one that Jimmy Murphy helped me with, which is basically just going around your body while you keep it spinning, like that. Now, then the next joke I say in the show is, now the most amazing thing about that trick is that you folks paid good money to see it. So then we go into the wedding ring. Let's see if we can get this going here. See that? That's just like a wedding ring. Starts off nice, but it gets messy real quick. Let's try that again. There we go. All right. Now I guess that makes this next one a divorce. No, that's not a divorce.
That's
see?
Trail separation.
You see, Will Rogers had a quote. 80% of roping is to just get a rope and start missing. Well, I miss about 80% of the time, so I figure I'm doing pretty good. Let's do that one more time. There we go. Now a divorce. There we go. And the last one is the one that took me the longest to learn. It's the Hollywood wedding ring. There we go. Much obliged.
Right. That's awesome. Okay, well, Marc Fouchi, thank you so much for joining us. You will be starring in the Will Rogers Follies January 16th through the 31st.
Correct.
At Rivertown Theaters for the Performing Arts. You can read all about it on NOLA.com. And for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, I'm David Lee Simmons.